Senator from Oklahoma.
Madam President, first let me just make a comment on the senator from Missouri. Some of the things he said, one of the most disturbing things, other than the cost of this stimulus bill, is the fact that there's nothing in there to stimulate. And there are two things that can be done that would be of great benefit to the United States of America. One is, as he talks about infrastructure, I was somewhat shocked that in the bill on the other side, there's only $30 billion, in the Senate bill, only $27 billion that would go toward highway, bridges, and that type of construction. Now, I'm very much in support of his bill number 169 that will raise that by $5.5 billion. But I have to say it's not enough. And I think any time that would still be less than 5% of the total amount that would go to those things that would provide immediate jobs. In my state of Oklahoma, we can identify over $1.1 billion just in Oklahoma of projects that are spade ready, environmental impact statements, everything has been done, we're ready to go on that. That is what would produce jobs tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day. Now, the other area is in military, and so while those two amendments having to do with the infrastructure, I'm in strong support of. The Boxer-Inhofe amendment is yet to be filed. It will be filed, and we're talking there about some $50 billion that would go toward construction and infrastructure. I want to mention, though, there is one other amendment that I do want to bring up for consideration. That's amendment number 262. What this is a recognition that in investing in our nation's defense provides thousands of sustainable American jobs and provides for our nation's security at the same time. Now, major defense procurement programs are all manufactured in the United States, with our aerospace industry alone employing more than 655,000 workers spread across the United States. Now, at the end of last month, the conservative economist Martin Feldman wrote in the Washington Post about the $800 billion mistake, and he referring to, of course, the stimulus bill. In that article, he pointed out that the value of infrastructure spending on domestic and on domestic military bases are the most significant thing we could do in order to try to stimulate the economy. In fact, it's clear that infrastructure investment, along with defense spending and tax cuts, has a greater stimulative impact on the economy than anything else the government can do. If our infrastructure needs repair, we equally need the tools to reconstruct the military readiness. Now, that's what I'm trying to do with this amendment. This is amendment number 262. And I agree with everything that was said by the senator from Missouri, that we need to do a lot of this with infrastructure, but equally, my amendment increases defense procurement spending by $5.3 billion to manufacture or acquire vehicles, equipment, ammunition, materials acquired to reconstitute military units. So we're accomplishing two things here. We're providing the jobs. We're also rebuilding our military. The one thing we hear on the floor over and over and over again is with the activity that is now subsiding in Iraq, but of course escalating in Afghanistan, that we are overworking everyone. The term we use in the military is the op-tempo is too high. We all recognize that. We know that we went through the decade of the 90s by reducing the spending both in strength and in modernization. So what we need to do, and if we're going to be having some kind of a stimulative bill, if you can do it and rebuild our military, drop down the op-tempo for our military, for our people who are serving, and at the same time do something about some of our FCS system, for example, feature combat system, so that we will become superior to our prospective enemies on the field in terms of the equipment that we give our kids. Right now, we all recognize that with the exception of the F-22 and the Joint Strike Fighter, the Russians are making the SU series that's superior to our best strike vehicles, the F-15 and F-16. This is a procurement problem. We already have the line going on F-22s and advanced on C-17s and other vehicles, and it's going to be necessary to augment that. So this is fully offset. It does have $5.3 billion that would increase procurement. I ask unanimous consent to set aside the pending amendment and for the purpose of bringing up Inhofe Amendment number 262.
Is there an objection? Without objection. The clerk will report. The senator from
I ask unanimous consent to consist of the reading.
Amendment number 262.
Now,
the clerk will report by number. The senator from Oklahoma, Mr. Inhofe, proposes an amendment number 262.
We are hoping to be able to consider this in the near future, but let me just mention one other thing of equal significance, and it comes to somewhat of a controversial thing that's happening. I just got back a couple of days ago, from Guantanamo Bay. I've been down there several times. As a matter of fact, I was one of the first ones, I think the first member of Congress, either house, to be there after 9/11. I've watched it as the years have gone by, and the criticism of things that are happening in Guantanamo Bay that have never happened in Guantanamo Bay. People talking about torturing and all these things. This is not the truth. And the thing that really bothers me is all you have to do if you want to know the truth about it is pull up on your computer, on the website, on the Red Cross. They're down there with regularity talking about the things that are happening. There are no human rights abuses. And in fact, 3 days ago when I was there, some of the detainees down there were kind of laughing about the fact that they actually had better medical treatment than they've ever heard of before. And as far as the food is concerned, it's the best. Even the hardened core, I would say this, there are 6 camps in conjunction with the severity of the problem with a particular detainee. What level of terrorist activity is he involved in? The first 3 are the ones that are ready to go back, and the last ones are the more severe ones. But even up there in Camp 5 and Camp 6, and we're talking about really bad guys that are up there, they still have the recreational activities, the health care, the dental care, the food, and so things up there are good. And I would hope that any preconceived notions by any member of this Senate could be satisfied by going and seeing for yourself, or by pulling up the web. We've even had Al Jazeera in there to evaluate how people are treated at Guantanamo Bay. It's an asset we've had. We've had that asset since 1903. It's something we cannot do without. I have introduced an amendment, which I will not call up at this time. It's amendment number 198. I have people like Senator Martinez, who is from Cuba himself, all of them recognizing the fact that we have to keep that facility open. Right now, even though it has a capacity of 11,000, 11,000. We only have about 425 people there, detainees there. Of that, there are 170 who can't be returned to their home country, can't be repatriated because they won't let them back in. Of the 170, 110 are the real serious, severe of the terrorists. And so, what do you do with those? If something should happen, and of course the President came out with 2 edicts. One was to suspend legal activity proceedings at this time, which the judge has rejected down there, so they're continuing. And the other is to close Guantanamo Bay within 12 months. Well, the reason the second one is not workable is because you've got to figure out what to do with all these detainees. Now, I don't know of one senator on the floor who would like to have them sent to his or her states. I know that they've come up with some 17 institutions, one of which is in my state of Oklahoma, where they could relocate these detainees. That becomes a terrorist target. It's something that's not acceptable. So all the amendment does, which I'm hoping to get cleared before too long, is to prohibit the use of funds in this stimulus bill to transfer detainees from Guantanamo Bay to any facility in the United States, or to construct any facility for such detainees in the United States. When I say that, it'd be necessary to do it. The courtroom down in Guantanamo Bay was built, it cost $12 million to build it. It took a year to get it built because of the very nature, the sensitive nature of the information. It can't be tried in a normal court facility. So this would preclude funds from being allocated toward the relocation of those detainees from Guantanamo Bay to any of the continental United States areas. And with that, I would serve notice that I'd like to get others to look at this very carefully. This may be the only opportunity that you'll have to ensure that your state is not flooded with detainees, with terrorists, and create the problems that we all know would come from that. With that, I yield the floor.
Madam President. Madam President.
Senator from Texas.
Madam President, I understand there are about roughly 10 amendments pending, and there's understanding